Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Woo, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, here, though not on YouTube, but very much alive. Because some people thought I was dead. I don't know why. I guess if you don't have an episode come out for, 2-3 weeks maybe, suddenly you don't exist anymore. That's a conversation we'll save for a little bit later in this episode. But this is an episode that you will only hear through a traditional podcast feed, though if you do happen to consume podcasts on Spotify, you should have the video available there. In fact, if you're seeing the video, you're probably looking behind me, and you are seeing some classic imagery from, from 2017, I guess it was. Maybe a couple years before that, maybe 2015 when I first started the Dark Android project. But anyway, you're seeing some of that classic artwork behind me right now, thanks to some very generous studio upgrades that I've recently received. That's going to really change the game for this show. But I wanted to give everybody an update on what's going on, where I've been, because the reality is where I've been the past 2-3 weeks since you've heard an episode is I've been banned from YouTube. So, episodes are still up on YouTube, but I've been banned from posting anything new onto YouTube because I've gotten a strike. And when you get one strike on YouTube, you have to wait, however long you have to wait. I'll get an email when they say that I can start posting there again. I guess the strike goes away after 90 days. But the irony is, it was for an episode that I did. In fact, it was a guest appearance that I made on another show, the Grammarica podcast, I believe, where they claimed that medical misinformation was spread through that episode, which is hilarious because that episode came out years and years and years and years and years before the pandemic. Yet I am getting the strike for, medical misinformation. That episode's probably from 10 years ago. It's from 2014. Again, I made a guest appearance. I don't even think I was the one who made the claim. It might have been one of the hosts of that show, which is, a very popular show. But this is the reality. It doesn't matter how popular you are. The reality of what we're in now, and particularly on YouTube, man, they will strike you out. And they, at least they don't just take down your channel, I guess. But, after 3 strikes, I suppose they will. But I don't know how this is going to, so I want to explain a bit of what happened, but this is why I haven't posted anything in a little bit because of this ban. So I want to explain a little bit of what this means. Now, understand, okay, that my show is primarily hosted on Spotify. Okay, Spotify for podcasters. It used to be Anchor. They had me come over. Things have changed with Anchor dramatically because it's not really Anchor anymore. Again, Spotify bought them out, a while back. But Spotify has gone through a lot of changes. For one thing, I used to have pretty much every, except for maybe a couple of TIE Fighter Renegades episodes that I do with the absolutely lovely Robin Freebeard. Besides those, where there was some copyrighted content from Star Wars that was included in it, that had been knocked down, every episode of Sovryn Tech and really any show that I did that I had posted, in that feed, was available there. And then, about maybe a few months ago, that started in 2024, I think. That started to change where suddenly a bunch of my shows were getting taken down. Now, part of the reason for that is I used to use a lot of copyrighted music in my shows. And one of the things when I transferred over to Anchor that I asked them, when they were, talking with me about it, when I asked them, I was like, all right, when we were doing that, I asked them, I said, look, I've got copyrighted music and stuff. Is this going to get taken down? Can I continue to use copyrighted music? And they said, oh, yeah, no, it's no problem. We have licenses for everything. Well, I guess what happened in 2024 is that Spotify no longer has licenses for everything as far as music goes. In fact, in particular, one I can think of is Ozzy Osbourne, who, I'm not surprised he's protected through IP is almost as much as Kiss is, and I enjoy both of them. But regardless, so, a lot of those episodes had been taken down over time. And some of those are, there's episodes that were like solely about metal. So of course it made sense that there was a bunch of metal songs in them. But some of the other episodes were some real, in my opinion, or I shouldn't say my opinion, in your opinion, absolute Sovryn Tech classics. So that's something that, I have to figure out what I want and strategize what I want to do for that going forward, because I always want these things to be available. But it's insane that basically Spotify is taking down content. Now theirs is relative to IP. Of course, with YouTube, it's a very different story. Now YouTube will be a little more lenient in the sense that I have a bunch of, okay, let me back up a little bit. What happened is recently, YouTube has started to push the podcast feature in YouTube Music and really the YouTube app in general. Okay, as in like RSS feed style podcasts like my show. And they, they have a feature where it automatically all gets, sucked in from your main RSS feed, which mine, of course, is through Spotify. And that was done. That was something I did recently. I started building up, the YouTube channel, the Master SOVRYN channel, okay, with original content, right? All the real-time sovereigns and everything else, okay? And then, then I was like, okay, now we'll add in the RSS feed after a little bit, and that'll start to populate all that. And it basically took on every episode. And that's when that guest appearance of mine with, on Grimerica, ended up hitting. And again, I had a bunch of episodes where they said, where YouTube said, this will be not available in some territories due to licensing issues. Again, likely with the music, same thing that was going on with Spotify. Spotify just removed them completely. I guess in this instance, I mean, it's like there's pros and cons on either platform, right? In YouTube's instance, where it was allowed to stay up. Okay, great. But then, again, with that supposed medical misinformation, which I can't even imagine what the fuck was said. I'll have to go back and listen to that episode. I haven't taken the time yet to do that. And I think there's one other that I have to look back at where I got the same thing. But I can't even imagine what I could have said, in that instance. I mean, I generally like to back up everything I talk about when it comes to medical stuff. That's why part of me feels like, I don't think that was like, I don't even think that I said it, because if I don't have like some real peer reviewed research or like meta studies or something to look at, I'm not going to talk about it. Right. But I mean, that's not getting into, kind of more wild stuff. But I mean, in general, I'm not going to talk about it. So I'm very curious how and why they YouTube scanned this episode and freaked the fuck out. But point being, ultimately, is that, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to post on YouTube again. I'm kind of expecting it to be next week, but maybe not. But like I said, Spotify does allow for the video to appear in the feed. And so hopefully you can see that. And I'll figure this out. I mean, I've always said that my fallback position, okay, was, I'll just run my own server. I'll host the RSS, I'll host the episodes and the RSS feed from there. Now, to give some color on that, why I don't exactly want to go that route right now. Okay, now I know people that I could work with who would help me make this a reality. I like to have more direct control over my hardware, as in I like to be able to walk up to my hardware when I need to. Okay, so as much as, you want to have your data in at least 3 or 4 sites, right? One of them being on another continent, the other being in another country, the other being in another location, and the other being at your location. You want at least those. Okay, as much as I want that, I can't have like that level 1 where it's at my location and it makes sense right now. Okay, and the reason being, and I've talked about this on previous real-time sovereigns, that, I'm out in the boonies here. Okay, I'm in West Bumfuck, New Hampshire on Ice Planet Zero, and boy, is it Ice Planet Zero right now. I'm out in the boonies here, and I've actually had to get Starlink. Now, fuck Elon Musk, let's get that out of the way. But I've had to get Starlink to be able to have, some, more decent degree of internet. Because before, I mean, the internet, it was totally running off of what was effectively a smartphone or cell signal, which is horrible out here anyway. And it was just really, really bad. Now, I'm not going to do my full Starlink review here. But I will say, if you're on the fence about it and it's something you're interested in, I'll just say this much: the pros far outweigh the cons. Okay, and there actually aren't that many cons in it, but not like the cool kind of cons like Ricardo Montalban. But anyway, like real cons, bad things. So there aren't that many cons. It's actually been a very game-changing thing for me. It's just literally the only viable option that would be, and when I say viable, I mean that it would be better than what I had. And it does allow me to do like more effective Zoom streaming and all these other things. And I mean, it works pretty well. And the speeds on it are not bad. I've had, 500 megabit down, 30 up, I mean, like, that's not bad. Now that's at like good, not so peak times, right? It's where if there's a bunch of people using it, obviously that speed drops. But I guess I'm also fortunate that there's not a whole lot of network to congest around here, as it were. But anyway, that has also, significantly improved the situation to where I can do more guest episodes and, maybe some live streams and things like this, because before that wasn't really viable from the home studio. But now it is. And so, I'm really, really grateful to finally have that again, thankfully, due to listener contribution. I mean, that's really where that comes from. And, this is the part that kind of kills me is I just got in, numbers from Podtrac about the show, and, I'm still doing, for the show, which, 2024 hasn't been the most consistent year, but it's still been a consistent year. There's still been, more releases than not, on a weekly, sometimes even daily basis, depending. And we've got, great ramp ups going on, and, things that are going to just start slamming, especially going into 2025, that I'm so excited about because of the upgrades that I've been able to do in the studio. Again, thanks to just wonderful people out there. But, I'm still doing like 12,000 listeners per episode. I mean, that not on YouTube, thankfully, because again, I can't post on YouTube, but that I mean, that's phenomenal. It's not like this is some kind of small show, right? I'm trying to think of, I could look them up quick, what the averages are, in the podcast business, but 12,000, puts me in like the top 10, actually, that might even put me in like the top 5% of podcasts, believe it or not, because most podcasts, don't even have like 1,000 listeners. Right. I mean, it's so, anyway, that's just the scenario. I'll put those numbers together because I think that would be interesting for people. One of the things I've always gotten, kind of compliments on, or not compliments, but people have always been very appreciative of, I guess I should say, is when I've talked about like the podcast industry in general, because most people, I have a very inside view on that because, outside of doing my own podcast, I actually work with other podcasts on production and video work and audio work and, making all of that, well, production, like I said, making all that go round and round. But so I have a very inside view of how all this goes. I get a lot of like insider newsletters and things like this. And I'm always happy to, kind of share that knowledge. But the Sovryn podcast, all this content is still in the very high percentiles of other podcasts, to say nothing of the fact, that this has been going on for over 10 years, which is not unheard of in podcasting, but it's still very, very rare. So, that's what's been going on. If you're wondering where the releases are, literally, I could not upload a new episode onto YouTube, but I already have a bunch of episodes recorded to come out, and I don't think I'm going to wait any longer on that, and we'll just start cranking these things and, putting them out at least on Spotify. And whenever YouTube says, hey, Stallion, fine, not that they're going to call me Stallion, even though they goddamn should, Might as well call me God. Sorry, that was a bad one. So until they email me and say, hey, God, no, we're all God. Thou art God. Okay. Until I get that email, we'll be putting it out on audio and of course as video in the Spotify or in the RSS feed that you likely already have access to if you're listening to this, or if Spotify is where you subscribe, well, you know what you're getting. So that's the score. That's where we're at. I didn't necessarily want to spend a ton of time on that, but I just wanted to give everybody an update on where we're at, and just that there's so much cool stuff happening right now, and all kinds of new tech that I get to really to play with, and that will bring so much more to life as far as this goes. I mean, I've learned over the years, in over a decade of doing this, don't make promises you can't keep. Don't put the cart before the horse. Don't tease people with something you're not going to do. But I'm going to just do it one more time and just say that I am dying to jump back into Red Wolf and go for a good fly. That's all I'm going to say. And I am so excited to do it again. And if you think that the things I've done over the past, for over 10 years was amazing, or that you got a lot out of it, oh boy, get ready. Because shit is it's already nuts. You just haven't seen it yet. And I can't wait to show you. And oh man, so many other things, even happening outside of the RSS feed. Things that, or like are ready to just launch, that I feel like, and I'm just sharing this with you because, well, there's 12,000 of you. But and those numbers, like, by the way, those numbers are absolutely confirmed by multiple sources, and I'm in one sense, like, I'm glad that podcasting now has these kind of resources where you can verify, numbers to a certain degree. You can never do it 100%, but to a certain degree. But at the same time, like, I always liked that it was so decentralized, and you just weren't sure, because that would allow advertisers who I have contracts I have to fulfill on that as well. Thank you to those also who have been shopping with Magic Mind, who have been going to Magic Mind. Tremendous sponsor. They've been very gracious and are continuing in 2025. Just lay that out there. But a lot of times sponsors would just take a chance on a lowly podcast and see what happens, right? I mean, it allowed my show to grow. Right now, at its height, years ago, I want to say around 2015, Sovryn Tech was, 12,000 listeners. No, I was getting 20,000 per episode, over 20,000. And that made advertisers happy, and I had plenty of them. Right. But I mean, even before that, when it was you could say a smaller show, or not as frequented, advertisers were just willing to take a shot. Oh yeah, this new podcasting thing, it looks like we do a little money on that. What the hell? Let's give it a shot. And now, everybody wants these hard metrics, and that's why everybody's on YouTube. And you might be asking me too. Now I'm going to get back to my original point of what I'm excited about too, and as well as another thing quick. But I just want to, say this: like, why do I even care about YouTube? Why even bother? I didn't do YouTube for a decade. Well, what does it matter? Well, the reality is, like, as much as I can prove my numbers with with the podcast, okay, at the same time, like, it's nowhere near compared to the metrics that are available. Not that I'm getting crazy metrics on YouTube right now, but that are available through YouTube as a platform. And that's why most advertisers have, and look, I want to make money doing this. Okay. I'm a professional. So I've always made money, or almost always made money doing this, and I don't want that to stop. And YouTube is where to go to be to make not through YouTube's ads, but through sponsorship deals and through advertisers, like the way I like to do this kind of business, work with great businesses that are putting great shit out there. Okay. But YouTube is where, a lot of these companies, they want to see the metrics. They know that's where they can see some more provable numbers, more so than even what you can get through, podcasting services. Okay. So, that's part of the reason why YouTube matters to me, and why I want to, when I tell advertisers, hey, like, yes, I'm going to make sure this episode's on YouTube. I have to deliver on that. And so if YouTube won't let me post, like, I kind of can't post, right? So anyway, that's besides the point. But all of this to say, like, so is there an alternative to YouTube? I mean, yes, there is. And it's something that I'm looking at, it's something that's already actually prepped, as in made, all the legal documentation, fuck legality, fuck laws, right? Okay. All the legality, all that stuff is already handled. Okay. But I mean, there is a thing particularly that Mrs. Sovryn and I are working on right now that will be going live very soon. And I mean, like, days. Okay. That I feel like is what, as much as I was, I once had a listener, a fan. They called themselves a fan, so otherwise I usually don't use that word. Come up to me and said, like, they touched my head and they said, Brian, this is what you're meant to do. It was very, 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 admittedly, like, I want to say it was, I'm, kind of chuckling, but I want to say with complete respect. It was a very, very spiritual moment, in saying that this is what I was meant to do. And I'm really honored by that. But for myself, the other thing that I'm working on now is on that other platform, I feel is absolutely what I was meant to do, what I was always meant to do. And it's something not only that I feel like I was always meant to do, but that so many people, even previous guests on the show, but so many people always wanted to be done. Like they always wanted it to exist. And I cannot begin to describe to you how excited I am about it. And people will probably ask me, why didn't you do this before? Well, I literally could not afford to do it before, as to where now things have changed. Thanks to a lot of generosity from wonderful people. Okay. And I'm forever grateful for that. And you know who you are. And man, like, you've always got me in your corner. Okay. Anyway, so very excited for that. And of course I will, be talking about it when it finally does go live, but we'll have other episodes going, out before that even happens. Regardless, now the last bit that I want to talk about, and I've talked about this before. Okay. I really, and I've seen this with, speaking of YouTube, with some of the biggest YouTube channels out there. Okay. Where, like, they'll come out, the host will come out, and I've talked about this before too, but I want to reiterate it. The host will come out and, will basically say, look, I am completely fucking burned out. And you can see it in their eyes. I mean, like, they're so tired. They're so done. Okay. They'll just be like, I am completely burned out. I need to take a break, and, like, I'm going to plan that every year there's going to be a month where nothing new comes out, and like, we just got to reset and just take a month off once a year or something like that. If you've never thought about this, I just want to challenge you to think about it. Okay. That people who, podcasting is such a weird animal, right? Because outside of things like maybe the Today Show, or, you think of like Good Morning America, I don't know, some of these, or whatever, News at 11 shit that we used to have. And I mean, I'm sure it still exists to some degree, but all this, but aside from those things, right? Like, the idea that high production level shows would run, once a week, 52 weeks a year, or, even a more breakneck pace than that, right? For years, even decades, like that's unheard of. Like that wasn't done, especially not with one person, right? And especially like a lot of the big YouTube channels, I mean, it looks like it's one person, but no, it's like 30 people in the background. Like these are small businesses basically running. Now I am not that. I am literally me. Okay. And anyone else who's on for whatever project, but like basically it's me. Okay. And for a lot of podcasts, it's just, one person. Maybe they hired somebody to do the editing. Certainly generative AI technologies or AI technologies are, varying nano AI technologies are, allowing people to edit content better and, make like social media content and all this other stuff. And, and do that in a more automatic way. Okay. And that's fine. Like, I don't really have, any beef with that. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. Anything that empowers the individual, great. Okay. But I think there needs to be like for a lot of people, for a lot of audiences, people who aren't exactly creators, are more the listener and so on. Like, look, I mean, I'm not going to do this, but I know other shows that have, and they have my absolute respect. Like if a show needs to take a break for 6 months, so the fuck what? Right? like the speed with which people like basically, or not speed, but the consistency and speed with which that people like demand their media now is fucking insane. And that there's so much of it out there that if you're not consistent, in a lot of people's minds, like they forget about you. They're just like, oh yeah, I moved on. You don't exist anymore unless you're blasting my ears and eyeballs 24/7. And I really think we need to rethink, that kind of relationship to our media. I'm really excited about, all of the things being produced right now, on my end. And I mean, I'm beyond excited. Okay. And there's other people who have done like great work, but like just some of the emails I've even gotten in the past 3 weeks. And I say this with respect, but like really, like, please calm down. Okay. Like we all have lives, I mean, am I a big believer in, you don't know the battle that people are going through, so attack them now because that way they're fighting two battles? Yeah, I'm a huge believer in that. Okay. But like, we all have our shit that we're dealing with. And a lot of times it's about, improving our own lives. Right. And so, we need to take a small break or whatever from, whatever production's going on and, and get like a mental rebalancing, need some solitude, right? Solitude is an incredibly important thing to have in one's life. Just have, all I'm saying is, have some empathy for these creators, really. Okay. And that's it. That's all I really want to say about it, and I'm not going anywhere. Sovryn-tech's not going anywhere. Like I said, everything's just going to really, really, really ramp up hard. And I hope to blow some minds with everything that's going on. Okay. But, it's just, and again, I have friends who are also podcasters, and the shit that they get from people is just, it's so insane. So like, if for some reason a podcaster doesn't publish something in 2 or 3 weeks or even longer or whatever, like patience, and if you want to send them an email, send them a fucking email of support saying, hey, like take a break, man, but come back because we love you. Like that, do that. Oh, just, again, I say it with respect because I mean, why would the hell would I complain that people are so excited about what I do? Like why? That's nuts to complain about it. I'm just saying, like, consider the relationship. Think about what media was like, 20, 30 years ago and realize that, oh, actually, like, no, Knight Rider didn't fucking play, as much as I would have loved it. Knight Rider didn't play once a week, every week, 52 weeks a year or whatever, right? Like it went on, it took a break. It had a season break. It had this, it had that. Okay. And even, like huge podcasts, have gotten into, of course, for a long time, have done what they call seasons and all that. And so anyway, I'm just putting it out there to have some patience. Okay. And for those that have been patient with me, I like to say that it's going to be that your patience will be rewarded. And with that, I'll wrap this one up. I was thinking about getting into a whole subject about secret societies and the election, because I had so many, speaking of emails that I had so many people emailing me with my thoughts asking me my thoughts about the election and all this other stuff. Maybe I'll save that for a separate episode. But with that, I will see all of you, on the other side.